next commentator will be Erin, who is a professor of geography at Northern State University in South Dakota. And Erin has the unique position of being the only one on the panel this afternoon who was a student of Harm's at Georgetown. But of course, she also went on to become a co-author with Harm and with me on a human geography text. Erin?
I met Harm in 1989. I was a sophomore at Georgetown in the School of Foreign Service, and on the first day of class, he walked in, and he told us that geography was really important. It made you more observant. Geographers were observant people who saw patterns, and then he started telling stories. And the story he told that day that just stands out in my mind still today is he said, I was riding on a plane, and we were flying over Australia, and I looked out the window, and I could see that there was a disease that was infesting this vineyard. And the grapes were getting infested with the disease. And so I said to the pilot, I said, land this plane. I need to talk to that vineyard. And so I was like, oh, what's this guy? And so of course the pilot landed the plane, and he said he went to talk to the vendor. And they went out and they inspected the grapes, and sure enough, Harm was correct, and Harm saved the day, and Harm saved the grapes. But he punctuated the story with his idea of the most important part of the story, that the man that owned the vineyard sent him a case of really good wine as a thank you. And I thought on that first day of class, I was like, who is this guy and how can I be him? That was the thought I had as a sophomore in college. And what I remember too about Harm from that year, that semester with him, is the first exam he gave us. It was 8 pages long, and there wasn't a multiple choice question on it. It was you know how you go in class and you draw crazy things on the board and you think your students understand what you're saying, and you tell these stories about flying over Australia? Well, Harm did that every day, and then he wrote these exams, and he'd say, draw the diagram that I drew on the board to demonstrate whatever. And so there was a particular page of the test, and there was an entire paragraph on that test that was about the Little Ice Age, which he was completely obsessed with at that time. You probably remember, Peter. He had an obsession with it. And it had fill in the blanks, like 10 fill in the blanks, and no word bank. And I was like, what is this? And on that same page, there was a couple questions about normal and reverse faults, and they still confuse me today. And I remember writing the diagrams and knowing I had it wrong. And so I wrote at the bottom of the page, I wrote, I hate this page of your exam, Dr. DeBlay. So then the next week I come to class, and I get the exam back, and I didn't do as poorly as I thought. But on the page where I'd written that note to Harm, he wrote a note at the bottom, and he said, I can see why, Erin. I did not do well on that page. But that's when our friendship began, and I'm really lucky because my dad's a geography professor, and he gave me great advice when I went to college. He said, just talk to your professors like they're me, because they're just people. You're going to have all these people that are diplomats and she people when you go to Georgetown, and you can't treat them like that. And at the time, Harm was full-on celebrity. He was on Good Morning America. In fact, the only reason he was teaching at Georgetown is some rich alum saw him on Good Morning America and said, those college students need to learn from this man. And so he paid for Harm to come every fall and teach for 5 falls in a year, or 5 years in a row, and that's why he wasn't with you, Jan, at the University of Miami. He was in D.C. On Monday, he flew from Miami to D.C. He had office hours in the afternoon. He taught one class that night, and then Tuesday morning he flew to New York to get ready for Good Morning America. The shoot was on Wednesday, I think. So in the office hours on Monday, I'd go in and see him, not every Monday, because that'd be kind of stalkerish, but I'd go in and see him, and we'd chat, and he would tell me these crazy stories, and we had such a great relationship. And I think it was really because I treated him with respect, but I saw him as a normal human being, and so we became friends. And then I went on to grad school in geography, where I met Alec when I was in the Netherlands, and that's another story for a different day. But I became a professor, and then Alec and Harm asked me to become their co-author in 2005, and so my relationship with Harm changed at that point, and for the good. And we got to interact a lot more again, and those conversations came back, and we had a lot of fun talking with each other as we worked together. Just 2 years ago, Alec and I were at dinner with him and Ryan as well, in Los Angeles, and I just remember, this is the way I imagine harm today. The waiter came over, well, the sommelier came over with a wine list, and it was like as thick as a textbook, and it was hard bound, and Harm was in heaven. He was so happy with that wine list. And then he started telling stories, and he told us a story about how the CIA flew him, do you guys remember this? Flew him to the Pacific, to some, where was he, Guam? Flew him to Guam, and he was there to advise the CIA on what to do about North Korea. Like, really, Harm? And he said, yeah, really. And then they flew him back like the next day because he wasn't allowed to like leave the base or do anything in Guam. He wasn't allowed to be a tourist. And at any rate, he to the very end of his life continued being Harm. And I remember how animated he was that first day of class and thinking I want to be him. And over the last 25 years, he was my professor, my mentor, my co-author, and my friend. And I came to realize, just probably since March, since he passed away, I've thought a lot about him and I've tried to figure things out, and I've come to realize that I'm never going to be Harm. And I've come to realize that Harm was who he was because of his life experiences, and I don't think he expected us to be him or to travel as much as him. I think a lot of geography teachers and geography professors get intimidated because we have to teach the whole world. And boy, wouldn't it be easier if you like flew over the whole world and got shipped off to Guam to talk about North Korea with the CIA? I mean, wouldn't it be easier to teach geography if you had had all those life experiences that Harm had had? And I don't think you have to be a good geographer. I think what you have to have is that infectious curiosity, that excitement, that enthusiasm, that desire to travel and to travel as much as you possibly can. But most of us can't take 52 trips in 1 year. And so while I won't be Harm, what I think I want to do and hopefully will do in the years I have left teaching is what I hope you all will do as well, is just keep exploring and wondering and learning and instilling this next generation of students with a wonder for the world that Harm had.